Welcome to Castles and Cryptids, where the castles are haunted and the cryptids are cryptic as fuck. And I'm Alanna.
I'm Kelsey.
And we are here coming at you. And today we're gonna do the time slip
What?
again.
I called mine the Time Warp, and all I can think of is Rocky Horror Picture Show. Let's do the Time Warp again.
It's hard not to get that in your head, yes. Yeah, we've done time travel, but I'm excited to do something a, a little adjacent to that. I mean, it is time travel, but it's a very, very specific type. You're just like, bloop! I'm in
Yeah,
another time.
and then you're
So
you're just back.
that's true. It's usually pretty easy to get back, which is not such the case in like the Outlanders and the
Yeah,
all the time stories.
yeah. It's the whole
Um,
premise of the show. Is how do we get back?
oh my god, now you sound like Jack from Lost. We have to go back, Kate. We have to go back. Oh, so we watched the movie we watched today was the 65, that one about 65 million years ago. Someone crash lands on Earth or whatever, like with
What?
Adam Driver. Yeah.
I've never heard of it. Oh,
Oh,
1,000 Years of Longing? Is that what it's called?
no, no, no. It's called 65 because
Oh,
it's like Jurassic Park because they like,
oh my god.
I
I've never
know.
even heard of this movie.
It's recent. Yeah.
Wow.
I had seen maybe one trailer and then Pat was like, watch this
Yeah.
trailer. Let's watch this. And it's like, or I'd heard about it. I don't know. Yeah. So Adam Driver and kind of starts out like he's on from this planet and they have space travel. So you think like you're in like this
Mm.
futuristic
Yeah.
world, but then he has to leave the planet to like, I don't know, find a cure for his daughter, I guess. Something like that. So he like goes off on the spaceship and then it like crash lands here and um basically everyone else is dead except for
Fun.
him, but he does have his big ass fucking like ray gun or whatever. It's this pretty awesome fucking
Cool.
space ass gun, but then he's like running around shooting like different dinosaurs and you're like, this is like Jurassic Park on steroids. Because you can't leave the park. You're
Yeah.
just stuck here. It's not
Weird.
bad. Yeah, he has to like
Sounds fun.
there, yeah, there's a little girl that ends up surviving too, but she doesn't speak his language, so it's kind of this whole language
Nice.
barrier and they're figuring it out and it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. They showed a lot in the trailer, but then there was some other stuff
Oh.
too.
I hate that. Like, don't give
Well,
away the entirety of the movie in your trailer, please. That's so annoying.
I heard someone say that too, that they gave away a lot, so I might have been a little biased even going in.
Yeah.
I think somebody was like, I don't even think they should have shown that it was, 65 million years ago. It's like, well, it's pretty obvious. That's the whole
Yeah.
like premise.
The title of the movie. They shouldn't have given us the title of the movie.
I don't know. Some of the podcasters I listen to are so picky sometimes.
Oh, jeez. And here I am sitting over there the last 2 days just rewatching the Barbie movie trailer. Because it's so funny. I beat you off,
The
Ken. I beat you off
trailers?
any day. It's so
Oh,
funny. It's
okay.
so
I don't think I've
cute.
seen the trailer. I've heard tell of the movie.
It's so funny. Because all the Barbies are named Barbie. So there's one part where Margot is
Oh.
Barbie is on the beach and she goes, "Hi, Barbie." And then another girl goes to her and goes, "Hi, Barbie." And then they just go, "Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie.
Oh.
Hi, Barbie." And then it just goes, "Hi, Ken." And Ken's like, "Hi, Barbie." And then the other
Oh
Ken
my
goes, "Hi, Ken." And
gosh.
he's like, "Ugh." And then it just cuts his. And then they have this whole
Okay.
thing about um what Ken's like being like, "Hey, Barbie, you want to like stay over tonight?" And Barbie's like, "Okay." And he's like, or like, no, she says, "Why?" And he's like, and then I can't remember what he says, but he's like, "Because we're boyfriend girlfriend." And she's like,
Oh, yeah.
and then he's like, "Yeah." And then something about like, "We can do stuff." And she's like, "How?" like with what or something because they have nothing. It's so funny.
Well, you come up for
Yeah,
coffee. I don't like coffee. Yeah, just the
yeah, it's like very
airhead.
self-aware. It's so
Aw.
funny.
Okay. I mean, I'll have to watch it because now I did
Yeah.
like the way they did the Barbies in like Toy Story and how they were like, bye bye now, bye bye. And like just kind of
Yeah.
silly and
This
poking
is
fun
very
at themselves.
cute.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, it's just gonna be fun. And I love Greta Gerwig, the director in it. So yeah, it's gonna
Okay.
be good.
All right. All right.
Yeah, go watch the trailer. Everybody watch the trailer right now. It's so funny.
It's not my usual, our
No.
usual movie discussion, even.
No, it's
Usually
just
we're
so
like
campy and like
horror.
ridiculous. I love it.
Oh, I did see it. Okay, no, I don't remember what it's called. Never mind. I know nothing.
I know nothing.
I was, I think we saw a trailer for a horror movie, but I still can't remember what the movie's called. I think I forgot the second we watched the trailer. It was like, wait, what was that?
Oh
Okay.
shit.
bunch of
Acidity.
teen
Yeah.
bunch of teenagers. I don't know. Something we could download maybe.
Hmm.
Oh, wait. Anne Heche was in it, and I was like, wait, isn't she dead? That must be one of her last movies.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, really? Well, she's an actress. She did used to date Ellen DeGeneres. She's usually got short blonde hair. Um,
Oh, I think I
but
remember.
she had
Oh, she had the car accident, didn't she? Into the
th-
house or something.
yes, that's
Yeah.
right.
Jeez. I
So
remember
that's why I
hearing
was
about
like, oh,
that. Yeah, it didn't. I don't think I've ever really watched anything with her in it.
yeah. I don't think she's been acting as much lately, kind of thing. Yeah, Donnie Brasco wagged the dog. I'm sure it should tell. Oh, okay. So the movie would have been called because it just come out this year, 2023. I guess she would have died last year, and it's called "You're Killing Me." That's what it's called.
Oh shit.
I don't know. I what is it? Follows Eden, who goes to a coveted heaven and hell party, hoping to get a letter of recommendation to an elite university from the wealthy parents of her classmate, but the party quickly turns into a fight for her life.
Oh.
It looked all right. It did. So we'll see. But I do have a interesting thing I learned while
Yeah.
perusing the internet this week. Yeah,
What
I
did
think
you
I was gonna say it
learn?
last time, but we were talking a lot. Um, I stumbled upon an article about the history of tartan. Just
Tartan?
yes, so I get these like emails from National Geographic like website. And sometimes I just read the headlines. They're like, we
Yeah.
do this. We dive into the history of tartan.
I
We
must have
talk about
finally been able to unsubscribe from fucking National Geographic for the one
I
article I
don't
wanted to read and had to subscribe to view it.
they have interesting headlines, I think.
They were
But
spamming me. I think I was getting 3 or 4 emails
mm,
a day from them, and I was like, this is too much, National Geographic. It's too much.
that's true. It's at I think I'm or yeah, it comes to my work email. So sometimes I'm like, well, this is more fun than anything
Oh,
else in this
yeah.
email inbox.
Yes, 100%. I would much rather read those at work than like at
Well,
home.
yeah, that's where I got that when I talked about the marigold, I think, and how it had use in Day of the Dead ceremonies, and then
Oh, yeah.
in Asia's ceremonies and stuff too. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's got some interesting things. They also, I just read there too that they discovered a big, like using the ground penetrating radar in like I want to say Norway or possibly Finland. They like discovered a big buried Viking ship, and they're gonna have
Oh,
to
jeez.
excavate it. Yeah,
That's cool. Yeah.
I know. They used to like bury their ships with their dead or something. Like it's pretty crazy. But so I do like their fun facts sometimes. to, to,
Yeah.
is my point. But when I was reading that article, it talked about the Canada tartan, the maple leaf tartan, and I was like, the
What?
what? Which was funny because I should have known Canada would have a tartan because Alberta has a tartan, and my kid brought me home a swatch of it
Oh,
that they like got as this like little bookmark one day.
that's
Kind of
cool.
shape. It is kind of cool. So I guess this makes sense because Nova Scotia is Latin for New Scotland, but they were the first province to adopt a provincial tartan in
Mm.
1956. um, and the one for Alberta, like I just showed Kelsey here because it's got a bunch of like greens and yellows and stuff.
Yeah.
It was designed by two ladies from the Edmonton Rehabilitation Society. Rehabilitation. Yeah, and it's to represent the green for the forest, the golds for the wheat and the sunshine, the blue is for the lakes and the skies, the black is for the oil and the coal, and the pink is for the wild rose, the provincial emblem. So,
Cool.
yeah, that's how we get our pretty little one. And then if you look up I don't know if it's. Yeah, I had to look up the maple leaf tartan because I was like, it's one of our official symbols of Canada, and I was like, oh, I've seen this. It's not the
Huh.
buffalo plaid, just like red and black kind of. It's more of a green with
What
red.
do I look up?
Maple leaf tartan.
Maple leaf.
Tartan is like we call it in North America plaid. But in Scotland and stuff where it originates from, they call it tartan. Sorry, I should have said
Oh,
that.
yeah. I've seen that.
Oh my gosh, right? Like, I feel like you would see it
Yeah.
at like a tourist shop or something because you're like, oh, it's like very Canadian greens and reds and
Yeah, it does. As this says, gold in the early autumn. It's like, yeah, it is very
yeah,
like autumny looking, all the fall colors.
very pretty. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Cool.
I guess we have a tartan.
I have like the one everybody calls my Scottish tartan because it's just the red and
Oh,
black like tartan, and I have it the leggings that I wear sometimes.
oh,
Those the fur-lined ones. Everybody's like Scottish tartan. I'm like, yep.
oh, right. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
I
yeah,
think it's the
totally.
Scottish tartan. Like,
I mean, they have different one for each
why not just
clan.
like,
So
yeah.
they probably have a national one too then. That would make sense. But I
Yeah.
guess it's gone like all over the globe really now. It's like
Oh,
Japan's got tons of tartan in their like
oh, that's
fashion and
cute.
stuff. I
Why
know.
is
I was like,
this not?
which is kind of cool because they're like British. We're kind of trying to stamp it out after the whole Jacobite army tried to say no, this one we want on the crown on the throne, and then they're like, no, fuck you, you're Scottish, but you're
Yeah.
owned by the British, and now you're not allowed to wear any of your like kilts or anything, and they like basically banned it for a while
Yeah. So I
because
think the
that's what
one
happens in places, cultural genocide. we've had some of that too, which is shitty.
oh shit, I'm looking up. Which one is mine? Oh, it tells me the clans. It tells me the clans. I have to figure out which one it is.
From your
Ooh.
leggings or from your
Yeah, it's
okay.
either the Royal Stewart or Wallace. Because I think it
Okay.
might be the Wallace clan then. That looks
Probably.
most like them.
I'm just
Hmm.
picturing a little stuffed Scotty dog wearing a red and black tartan.
Well, it's like, I think there's some yellow. Yeah. Yeah, it's either the Royal Stewart or Wallace. Nice.
Ooh.
Nice.
There's so
Represent.
many. It's very
But like on
cool.
my
Interesting.
mom's side, I am Scottish, so like it
Okay.
works. Yeah. So I'm not just like randomly wearing them too. I'm always like, yeah, rep my mom's side because my dad's side is like Norwegian and my mom's side's Scottish. So I'm like, yeah, Scottish tartan.
Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like have I think a minor amount, but I've never done the 23andMe to see what
Yeah.
different percentages my my mutt like ancestry is.
Yeah. Ours we just
Which
know because a couple years ago, well, after my grandma passed away, my dad got to look through like all her old documents and everything and found like
Oh.
my great 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 grandmother's marriage certificate that said like they got married in a small church in Norway. Like,
Aw, that's so cute.
yeah, so we know like the city and everything. So if we ever want to go visit, we can go there
Oh, that is
and stuff,
cool.
which is, yeah, really nice. So, because we didn't really know much about my dad's side of the family, it was always kind of like hush hush. We
Yeah.
didn't really know, even what
Okay.
country it was from specifically or anything like that. Uh, yeah. So
Right.
it's nice to be able to pin down
Yeah,
like
that's fun.
anything. Yeah.
I like learning about ancestry and stuff. It's
Mhm.
very interesting. I
Yeah.
think it's cool that we can do it online and stuff nowadays. Pat had a lot of people in Norway tell him his last name sounded more Norwegian, but his family was always like, no, no, we're from Sweden. So it's like, I don't know, maybe somewhere back there.
Yeah.
I don't know nothing about myself. I just have to figure out where my little plot of land is in Scotland that my sister bought for me. I'll go, there's
Plant
my
a
little
flag. Yeah.
meter, square meter.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
Do you want me to kick us off?
I'm here to hear a story.
Uh, well, for my time warp adventure, this one's quite famous, I guess. I had never heard of it.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
I don't know if you have. It has quite a few names, though.
I
It's,
I think they're only famous in certain circles. Like, I'm only learning
yeah,
about stuff now that I listen to podcasts. I feel like my eyes are being
yeah,
opened. I don't research this stuff enough on my own.
right? I knew none of this shit, like, before we started podcasting. I wasn't looking up sleep paralysis in my spare time. Okay, thanks.
I forgot we talked about one already on the time travel episode, and I was like, I think I just heard this one on another podcast, and you're like, I think I covered that one.
Yeah, you can't remember. We've done so many episodes, guys.
Yeah, go back and
Uh,
listen to the time travel episodes.
yeah,
We'll wait. We'll be here.
yeah. Welcome back. No, just kidding. So this has three names. So it's called the
Oh.
Moberly-Jourdain Incident.
Okay, yes, yes.
Yeah.
I'm
Or
familiar.
the Ghosts of Petite Triano, or the Ghosts of Versailles. Which,
Yes. I want to say Petit Trianon. Trianon? Yeah, it's hard to say. I
yeah,
haven't heard. I haven't.
Triano.
Okay.
That's as close as I'm gonna get. I hate French. Just a heads up. It's like, ugh.
That one came
After
up. Yeah. Sorry.
like so many years of forced French language.
I know, and then it's harder as you get older. Like our brains aren't as good at picking up languages either.
Yeah,
So if you
right?
don't learn it when you're young, and yeah, I think that's why they had the two different early immersions, French immersions in New Brunswick, where you could start when you were in grade like
Yeah.
4 or like 6. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's what my sister-in-law and her family they did growing up in Manitoba. There's a lot of French and everything there. So, yeah, they took French immersion. They're talking about putting my niece through it. So, we'll see. Me and my brother do not speak
Okay.
French. So, just be like, we cannot help you with your homework. Okay. It's in a different language.
Yeah,
I can help you with math, maybe. I can understand enough about math.
I know they're big on it in New Brunswick because there's a lot of French there too, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's tough, that's for sure. If you yeah. I only did a few years of it in grades like 6 to 8. I didn't do the
Yeah.
whole thing cuz whatever, but oh, I'm
Yeah.
excited.
So, this is a claim of time travel and seeing ghosts that was made by Charlotte Ann Moberly, who was born in 1846, and Eleanor Jourdain, who was born in 1863, which is so old,
I know.
so long ago.
I know. I think that makes them cool sometimes too, because people were
Yeah,
never talking about this kind of stuff back then.
right? Yeah.
Oh, I
So,
know. I love that this one's like so historical. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Charlotte Ann Moberly was born in 1846. As I said, she was the 10th of 15 children.
Really?
Yeah, 15 children. That,
Okay. I know something. I know some of this one, but I did not know that.
yeah. I did meet somebody once that was the 7th out of 13 kids or something.
Oh my god.
Yeah, this is the 10th out of 15. That's intense.
Yeah,
That's a
I'm just.
baseball team.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the Dugers or the
Yeah.
Duggars or whatever.
Yeah. So the Moberly family was described as professional. Her father, George, was the headmaster of Winchester College,
Oh.
and he was later the Bishop of Salisbury.
I mean,
And
damn, though.
yeah, so like her whole family, they were fairly well educated. It wasn't a poor family and stuff like that. Uh,
Hmm.
and in 1886, so this would be when Charlotte's 40, she becomes the first principal of Hall for residents of women that are at St. Hugh's College in Oxford. I don't know if this was like Oxford the college, this is a separate wing or something, but it just said she was
Yeah.
the first principal of a hall residence for women at St. Hugh's College in Oxford.
Oh. Yeah,
So,
because for a while, women weren't allowed to
yeah,
go to university and stuff. So
right?
that sounds like it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
She. Hmm.
And she soon discovered that she needed some help running the college and asked Jourdain to become her assistant. So that's how they met. And Eleanor Jourdain was born in
Oh.
1863. She was the oldest of 10 children.
Damn.
These are two huge families. That's insane.
Holy shit.
Her father, Francis Jourdain, was a reverend and was the vicar of Ashburn in Derbyshire. Or Derbyshire? Probably
Oh,
Derbyshire.
sorry.
Uh,
That just sounds like Derpshire.
no, Derbyshire.
Derbyshire. That sounds familiar.
Yeah,
You did.
Derbyshire.
I'm loving this. You did like a real deep dive. Like I've never heard anything
This
about their
is there was
backgrounds.
so many sources. I was like just trying to weed through it all. It was insane. Uh Her sister Margaret later became an art historian, which so she's kind
Okay.
of popular in her own right. And then their brother Philip was a mathematician. Uh,
Okay. I wonder what the
yeah,
other
so
kids
two
did.
through this is all going through. Like, keep in mind, two extremely well educated women, um,
Yeah.
like especially for the time period. Like,
Right.
Eleanor was sent to school in Manchester, which was unusual as most girls at the time were educated at home. And
Dang. Good for
yeah,
her. You go,
right?
girl.
So
Good for her,
Jourdain,
as Lucille.
yeah,
I almost said Lucille Ball.
yeah.
Lucille Bluth would say. Like that meme of her, and then
Good
she's
for
yeah, she's
her.
just got the little cocktail glass or the
Yeah,
martini
I
glass.
love
Good
that.
for her. She was awesome.
So Jourdain was later the author of several textbooks and ran a school of her own. I think
Oh,
they mean by that like she basically took over the school
okay.
later, like after she was helping Moberly. She basically ended up taking over the school herself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So that brings us to the event. That's what I have for backstory. So after these two women had began working together, they decided that they needed a chance to get to know each other know each other better. They're co like vice principals. And
Okay.
Jourdain owned an apartment in Paris where she tutored English children. And Moberly ended up going there to stay with her. So they're in this apartment. And during this visit, the
Oh.
two went on several of these little trips around Paris by train, just visited a whole bunch of places, it seems like.
Oh,
And
that's
And
so fun. And
wouldn't
they
it be?
just like go
Uh,
back to her apartment and
yeah, so cool.
after they're all full of chocolate and whatever
Yeah,
else. Croissants.
yeah.
Chocolate croissants.
Fromage and some alcohol.
Oh,
Uh,
that's awesome.
so it was during one of these visits that the two ended up taking a train to go to the Palace of Versailles, which
Nice.
looks beautiful. There are some pictures in the drive, by the way, of,
Oh, okay,
of the
cool.
women and the palace. It looks pretty cool. Beautiful grounds, like hedge, trees, gardens, everything beautiful little walkways they have leading up to it.
Right.
So
Looks
this,
huge.
yeah, the event takes place on August 10th, 1901, when they traveled to the palace, where multiple sources say they later said that they weren't very impressed with the palace after touring it. They're kind of
Oh,
like,
really?
meh. Yeah, which makes me laugh.
I know,
Um,
because from everything I've ever heard of that palace, it looked like opulent and like gilded and just such
I mean, it's a fucking
fancy
palace.
furniture. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like gold
Uh,
everything.
so they decided to wander around the grounds and they took a walk through the gardens to the Petit Trianon,
Right.
and which is a small chateau. It was built in the late 18th century and was said to be the private retreat of Marie Antoinette, the last queen of France before the French Revolution. I
Right.
love Marie Antoinette. She's fun. Uh,
It's just a cool figure. Yeah, I'd
yeah,
like to learn more about a lot of women historical figures. I mean,
yeah,
oh, we don't get told enough.
right. Um, it. So, however, when they did reach her little chateau that she had, they discovered it was closed to the public. And the pair say that they had been traveling the grounds with this guidebook, but ended up finding themselves lost on the grounds after missing a turn for the main avenue that they were supposed to take back to the palace. And instead, they ended up on a lane that bypassed the palace and kind of took them in a different area.
Right.
And
Okay.
yeah, so this is where it all starts. While walking, Moberly reports that she saw a woman shaking a white cloth out of a window. Well, Jourdain recalls seeing an old deserted farmhouse with this old plow outside of it, like out front.
Yeah.
And I think this was kind of later on looking back at it. They said that they had a feeling of oppression and this dreariness that came over them. Like,
Yeah.
and they didn't really feel it at the time, but um they said
That
looking
sounds.
back, like they felt like a heaviness. And
Yeah. That's what I've heard.
yeah, uh they said that they saw a few men who they thought were palace gardeners who told them to go straight on, like keep following the path.
Okay. I love
And
this.
I do have lots of quotes from Wikipedia because these seem to come from, spoiler alert, a
Oh.
book that they wrote later on. Because all the
I have
quotes basically
heard of the
say the
book.
exact same thing. So it was just ended up being Wikipedia, I think, that kind of summarized it the best, like
Yeah.
in
No, you're right. This
putting
one
the
I would
quotes.
say is one of the more famous ones.
Yeah,
Like, I think I heard it on a couple different podcasts, and
it was
it
fun.
always, I this one makes, yeah, it would make me want to do time slips and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, and it's funny because you know how my list was from the UK.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I want to see what's on this one, and then maybe do this other place, and then like this one was like listed on his list, and I was like, this is a historical one. This isn't one you got from your like neighbor.
No, yeah.
So I'm like really glad you're doing it because I like um
Yeah. It
had a
was
couple
cool.
paragraphs on it too. So I was like, ooh, I want to talk about
Yeah.
this one.
So it said, just going through what they experienced, Moberly described one of the men as, quote, very dignified officials dressed in long grayish green coats with small three-cornered hats.
Oh, okay, that's very specific.
Right?
Yeah.
Jourdain recalled that she noticed a cottage with a woman holding out a jug to a girl in the doorway, describing it as a living picture, much like Madame Tussauds like waxwork museums. Like it's kind of
Oh.
depicting a scene and they aren't, I don't know if it's like implying that they aren't moving, like they're frozen, or just they look very unlifelike, even though they were lifelike. Kind of you get like
Yeah,
a
that's
weird.
kind of weird. That's an odd
Yeah.
detail. Yeah, I wonder
Yeah.
if it was just a glimpse and hmm, I'm not sure.
And Moberly did not observe the cottage, so she didn't see these two women, but did remember she felt the atmosphere changed. Like I said before,
Okay.
she wrote, quote, everything suddenly looked unnatural, therefore unpleasant. Even the trees seemed to become flat and lifeless, like wood worked in tapestry.
Oh.
There were no effects of light or shade, and no wind stirred the trees,
Oh
which
yeah, that's
is,
weird.
yeah, so they're like frozen. They are like fully frozen. Like nothing's moving.
Ew.
Continuing from Wikipedia, it said they reported reaching the edge of the woods that lay close to the Temple de la Mare
Oh.
and coming across a man seated beside a garden kiosk wearing a cloak and a large shady hat. According to Moberly, his appearance was most repulsive. This is just savage. Uh,
Oh. Whoa. That came out of
uh,
nowhere.
yeah, his appearance was most repulsive. Its expression odious. His complexion was dark and rough. And then Jourdain
Oh.
noted that the man slowly turned his face, which was marked by smallpox. So he has like very, like scarring from smallpox, and they're being so savage about it. Uh,
Yeah, a little bit. It's a little
yeah,
harsh.
like fuck off. He survived smallpox. Uh,
Yeah. And what do you mean
yeah.
dark? Is that like a little racist? It's hard to tell.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like the scars or like
Yeah.
anything were meant to be
Or
dark. I'm not sure.
tanned, maybe. Like from
Yeah,
working outside. Yeah.
probably didn't have sunscreen. Uh,
Yeah, just the little hats.
yeah, she continues on saying the expression was evil and yet unseeing. And though I did not feel
Oh.
as he was looking particularly at us, I felt a repugnance in going past him.
Oh, a repugnance in going
Yeah,
past him?
sorry, a repugnance in going past him. Like,
She is
yeah, they're
like
so
her
mean.
flowery language is just hiding some cutting remarks.
Yeah.
Wow.
They said
What a
that
bitch.
another man, whom they described as tall, with large dark eyes and crisp, curling black hair under a large sombrero hat, came up
Ooh.
to them and showed them the way to the Chateau Petit Triomphe.
Okay.
And Moberly then says that she noticed a lady sketching out on the grass. She looked at them after they crossed this bridge, I think across a little like river, or like stream to get to the gardens in front of the palace again.
Yeah.
Moberly described the woman as wearing a light summer dress and a shady white hat, and that she had long fair hair. Moberly says she thought it was another one of the tourists at first, but realized that her dress was very, very old fashioned.
Mm-hmm.
And at this time, Jourdain, who was still walking with her, says she never saw this lady in the grass. So they're each kind of seeing different things, even though they're walking
Right.
side by side, which is also unusual.
Interesting in a witness account. Yeah.
Yeah, because like they're both seeing the man. They both described the ugly man, but then one of them's seeing a cottage, one of them's not. One of them's seeing this lady in the grass, one of them's not.
And like a cop would probably be looking for people making up a story to see if they had worked it all out beforehand,
Yeah,
like to line up, and they're like,
yeah.
no, theirs don't line up necessarily. Not on all the
Uh,
points, anyway.
So, on their return back to the front of the palace, they were directed back to the entrance and joined the rest of the tourists. They toured the house and later had tea at the Hotel de Reservoir before finally returning to Jourdain's apartment. So, it seemed like they kind of like came out of it as easily as they went into it just by walking. Uh,
Right.
yeah, but
So
they did meet
weird.
up with the rest of the tourists. So according to the women, neither of them mentioned the incident to anyone until a week or so after, when Moberly told her sister what had happened in a letter. So she was writing to her. Uh, I think it was meant to be at this time. Moberly also had asked Jourdain if she thought the small chateau was haunted. I think this is when
Yeah.
she's writing to her sister. And Jourdain replied that she thought it was. Like, yes, it's haunted. And
Bro.
yeah.
They knew something was up.
Yeah, so 3 months later, back in Oxford, the pair said that they had compared what they saw and realized they had witnessed different things and decided to kind of separate, not talk about it anymore, and each write their own account. And then together they started researching the history of the chateau at the same time. So they're working together for that, but they're writing their own account of what they saw,
That's like
like each of
very
them.
smart though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moberly came to believe that the lady in the grass was none other than Marie Antoinette, which I love.
That's so crazy. I mean, it's
Um,
at a castle. Like, you know
yeah,
who's lived there historically. You have
yeah,
a
and it's
better
her
chance
little
of
like
guessing it.
private chateau that she had on the palace grounds and everything.
Right?
So,
I think
uh,
she even designed like the part of that area of the gardens and stuff from what I had found. I was
probably,
like, that's
yeah.
cool.
I know the chateau was built by somebody else as a gift.
Okay.
Was it like King Louis the Fourth or something? And Marie
Oh, one of
Antoinette's husband
those.
was King Louis the Sixth, so it was like a gift to somebody else. But I assume you probably like
Mm.
could do whatever the fuck you want to the grounds after. So um
Oh,
yeah,
I love
so
it.
Moberly came to believe this was Marie Antoinette after seeing a portrait of her that was done in 1785 by Adolf Wermuller. Sorry, I didn't
I
look up the German.
I
Um,
know, I know. Yes, this I think I came
it's a
across
pretty
this too.
famous like picture though of her.
But it was
I
that it
had
was
seen
this
it
that
before.
specific one, right? That made her finally
Yes.
recognize her memory of
It
her
was
or
this one
something.
because the people that had actually known Marie Antoinette when this portrait got done say
Yeah.
that this portrait is described as being the most accurate to what she actually looked like. And those
Which
were
is
like the
so
people that knew
cool.
Marie Antoinette. Uh
Right, because they probably tried to paint somewhat flatteringly
yeah.
a portrait, of the portraits in the day, just to make people like,
Yeah,
oh, this is them at their best, in their best light and whatever. But like, yeah, you
right?
would you would know which ones looks the most like your friend
Yeah.
or
Uh
family. Yeah.
So, after their research and looking up this stuff, they believe that the events they saw took place on August 10th, 1792, which would make it only 6 weeks before the
Oh.
French Revolution and 6 weeks before the execution of Marie Antoinette, which,
Okay.
yeah, is kind of creepy.
Interesting.
Uh, Jor-
92, you said.
yeah, 1792.
Okay, okay. I heard
Um,
in that date range, but like also that it could have been in the 1780s. It's like, whoa, it's so
ah.
specific of a time though for them to like pinpoint.
Yeah, that I kind
It's
of
very
have
cool.
iffy with, but it did say that
Yeah,
during their
yeah.
research, Jourdain realized or was told by a friend. Oh no, Jourdain realized that August 10th, which is the day that they were visiting, I believe, was August 10th. Let me make sure. Because I think it's, yeah, on August 10th in 1901 they visited, and they say that they were witnessing August 10th, 1792. And
Okay.
Jourdain, in her research, found out that August 10th was the anniversary of the last day of the royal family's freedom.
Oh
Um,
wow.
before, like, probably before they were captured and, like, rioted upon and all that shit. Um,
Right, during the revolution.
yeah. And then a French friend of, I believe, Jourdain said that she had heard that annually on a certain day in August, Marie Antoinette was still seen sitting outside the chateau,
Ooh.
and the people around her would also be seen engaging in their usual activities. So, like, this has happened more than once,
Wow.
I guess.
Yeah, like that
Mm-hmm.
kind of residual
Yeah.
type of haunting or whatever, where it's just kind of like a
Yeah.
loop playing something.
So after this research and everything, they tried to take several more trips back to the Palace of Versailles and the Chateau Gardens, but were never able to trace the path that they had took, like that weird
Right.
path that they had actually gone on when they
Yeah, they
got
couldn't
lost.
recreate the experience.
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, one of them sort of did. Various landmarks such as the kiosk and the bridge were missing, and the grounds were full of people, like just covered in tourists. So why they
Right.
would have been like wandering around and only stumbling upon this girl in the grass and like two
Yeah.
gardeners and a guy at a little garden kiosk
It's
thing,
never like that at tourist
right?
spots,
Yeah,
touristy
that'd be
places.
crazy. So unlike the empty garden and the only gardeners and lady stretching in grass they see, it's filled with people. Some
Yeah.
sources say Jourdain had similar experiences on a solo trip to the gardens in 1902, a year later, during which she saw two laborers and felt like, so like men working. And during this, she also said she felt like she was being passed by an invisible crowd. So just
Oh,
felt that there was a bunch of people like passing by her and that they were whispering
weird.
like as they passed or whispering to her, but she couldn't see them. Yeah.
Creepy. Rhubarb,
Uh,
rhubarb, rhubarb.
as well as she reported hearing music from a distant band that was playing, saying it was unnaturally diminished. So it wasn't like it was sounded weird and distorted, but not like it was from far away, like it had been
Ooh.
unnaturally distorted. And
Okay.
she ended up asking about it later, I assume to the people at the palace that are probably doing these tours, about a band playing on the grounds that day, and she was told that none of them had been there. And I believe she was. I think I read in one of the sources it even said that the area she was in and the area where the bands that are there that typically play, like she wouldn't have been able to hear it from there. Like they know that for a
Yeah.
fact, like because
Yes,
of
I
how.
read that. And that also that it was like January, so there wouldn't have been anyone playing
Oh,
outside.
yeah, I think that
Like,
was there too. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, why would you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Uh
so weird.
So, from what she remembered about them playing, she wrote about 12 bars of this melody that she remembered. Um,
Ooh,
yeah.
so cool. Sorry.
Um, so then they then thought that maybe the Palace of Versailles had been booked for a private party back in 1901 or an event of some kind, and that's who they had
Okay.
seen. Was this party, like people there.
Sure, sure,
However,
sure.
I assume it's them following up with the tourism group there. Again, they've learned that nothing had been booked that day. And through their research, they thought they had recognized the man they reportedly saw at the kiosk as the Comte de Vaudreuil, uh,
Ooh.
which is a friend of Marie Antoinette's. He's reportedly like the
Oh, okay.
smallpox scarred man,
Oh,
which they just savagely attacked. Um,
right, right. Like they would never be friends with him.
yeah, but Marie
Apparently.
Antoinette can.
Yeah.
Uh,
Aw.
so yeah, this is all happening, and kind of like in between this, or I guess a little bit after this, after the incident, Jourdain became the vice principal of the St. Hugh's College in 1915. So this
Okay.
is a number of years later. And then we get on to the book I kind of talked about. In 1901, one of my sources said that there was a small print run of the book. And then again, there was like a larger print done in
Oh.
1911 where Moberly and Jourdain published a book, both times entitled An Adventure.
Okay, so like
Uh,
right after it happened and then like 10 years
yeah, like a
later.
small print run, like very few copies. And then, yeah, 10 years later,
Sure.
again, a
They
larger
probably had
print.
to self-publish.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. They wrote this book under the names Elizabeth Morrison and Francis Lamont or
Okay.
Lamont. And after they became convinced the grounds were haunted, the book, An Adventure, describes the visit they made to the chateau on the grounds of the Palace of Versailles and the sighting of Marie Antoinette back in 1901. As you can imagine, the book release caused a huge sensation and was also subject to a lot of ridicule over their belief of having seen ghosts and time travel.
Right. Even
Um,
though like they're coming at it from such a practical place
yeah,
where they practically come from like scientific families and
yeah. Like, keep in mind they're
yeah.
very, very well educated. Like,
And like
yeah.
not part of, not showing any signs of being part of like the spiritualism movement, which I think happened around that time, at
Mm,
least one of them anyway. So,
there is a little bit saying they experienced paranormal and stuff before, but
oh,
not
okay.
anything that they were necessarily like searching it out, I
They're not
guess.
leaning into it by the sounds of
No.
it. No. They
Um,
got their skeptical spectacles on. They're more Dana Scully than Fox
yeah.
Mulder.
Um, so during the book release, readers also believed, not even just in part in the ladies saying they had seen ghosts, the readers soon realized in reading the book that they had slipped through time and that who they may have seen had not been ghosts at all, and that it could have just been like they weren't seeing ghosts, they had traveled back in time, which would be different than you seeing ghosts that were traveling to your time, I guess. So I'm trying to say it.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I know it's
Um,
all hypothetical. Like we don't really know
yeah.
what we're looking
And
at here.
then after the first major publication back in 1911, uh, the book eventually went through 5 different editions and publications, along with 2 that were done in French over about the next 40 years or so. So there's been
Okay.
5 different editions. So from what do I have here? This is skeptics. This is like my next thing about people, I guess theories and skeptics.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Other explanations.
Hmm.
Um from
I'd like to hear
Wikipedia.
them.
Yeah, some of them are a little weird. From Wikipedia, it said, however, many critics did not take the book seriously on the grounds that the implausibilities and inconsistencies, oh my god, that it contained. I'm not going to try a third time.
Inconsistencies.
Yes, that's the word. It's too long. It's got too many letters in it. A review of the book by Eleanor Mildred
Ooh.
Sidgwick. Kind of
Oh
love
my.
Eleanor Mildred Sidgwick.
They full named her.
It's like fucking Harry Potter name. Uh,
Yeah.
in the proceedings of the Society for Physical Research.
The Society for the Appreciation of the English Beefsteak. Sorry, that
No.
was a throwback to last week. Hmm.
This is the Society of Physical Research.
Okay.
But like, why?
Physical
Suggested.
research or psychical research?
Oh, must be
Physical?
psychical. I'm like, what the fuck is this word? Yeah, it
It's a
must be
weird.
psychical. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's gotta be psychical.
It's
Psychical.
one. It does. Yeah, it comes up a lot in like paranormal shit. But other than
Yeah,
that, nobody ever says it out loud.
psychical. Suggested that the women had misinterpreted normal events that they had experienced. And
Okay.
then in 1903, so before the book was published, well, the second time, and then
Right.
after the events, there was an old map of the chateau gardens that was found that did end up
Okay.
showing a bridge that the 2 women had claimed to have crossed.
Yeah.
And this bridge was not on any other map but was on this map, and they claim in all their visits going back to it that this bridge didn't exist, but according to this map from 1903 it did. So that's one thing.
From
If it's like,
1903.
yeah, thing
Okay.
in that
Did
time period, like the bridge did exist on the grounds. And
Okay, okay. Is that
yeah.
the only map that you heard of that they found? I thought they had found an older one. that matched.
I think that's the only one I have that like talked about it. There's one that I think they drew or something.
Oh, I thought
That
I had
might have
run
been the one.
across something that was that they found a map that was from like the late 1700s that showed all the things as they had seen them.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably
Either
just didn't
way,
keep it in my notes.
it's really crazy. There's a lot of like little like kind of supporting evidence to this one
Yeah,
where it's like, okay, yeah, that's pretty neat. Like that's pretty weird, you know.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they saw this map, and then also it said that the identity of the authors of an adventure was not made public until 1931 because they had published the book under those like ghostwriter names.
Right. I
Um,
mean, can you blame them with all the yeah, with all the skepticism out there?
yeah.
It can yeah, it can be a lot.
Um, Also, it said that many believed that the two highly educated women's accounts of what they, or many believed like their accounts of what they saw, including writer Nell Rose, who observed they were not liars and both ladies had nothing to gain by making up this story. In fact, it could
Well,
go a long way to ruining their reputation, which is also very true. I mean, they're vice
yeah, usually
principals at a fucking
is.
college in Oxford. Like, yeah,
I
it
know
would
it makes
ruin their
people not
lives.
want to come forward with this kind of experience because you're like, well, people are just going to think I'm crazy.
Yeah. Uh, from Sci Encyclopedia. Uh, this one was like kind of more of the other theories. Most of these are from the Sci Encyclopedia or Wikipedia.
Okay.
This one said Moberly and Jourdain were subjected to personal attacks, notably in a 1957 book by Lucille Iremonger,
All
uh,
right.
who was a Jamaican who knew them by reputation, having attended St. Hugh's, um, where
Oh,
they had
okay.
both served as a principal. So she personally knew them when she was an
Hmm.
undergraduate. Iremonger focused on a dispute that arose after Jourdain's attempt to dismiss a colleague she viewed as insubordinate, which would have led to her forced resignation had she not first died of a heart attack. Spoiler: Jourdain dies of a heart attack. Uh, so, like,
But
she
they
would
were
have
going
had
to
to
fire
resign.
her?
Yeah.
Oh, because she talked about
Um,
someone?
she was trying to have a colleague dismissed, basically for not listening to her. I
Oh,
don't know much of like the details of that.
weird.
Um, so this writer, uh, Iremonger, also said that both women had pursued a lesbian relationship with their students,
What?
because you gotta throw in that they're lesbians, and further suggested that the pair
God
had.
forbid they be a smart woman of the times otherwise, if they're
I,
not a witch or a lesbian.
she further suggested that the pair had themselves been romantically entangled,
Ugh,
which she
sure.
argued may have made them susceptible to a shared delusion, which is your favorite thing in the world.
Oh my god. It's just the weakest
A folie à
excuse.
deux, or whatever it's called.
Ugh. Yeah, one person goes crazy, so surely everybody else would. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
It's like no, you guys have no there's no psychological backup for that.
Um, this one I personally love, and it kind of, but I just, this is a theory that I love. It's my one of my favorites, and it's also pretty funny how this wrote it. So I copied this from Wikipedia because it's also kind of savage, and
Oh,
it made me laugh when
okay.
I read it the first time. So this is the theory that the kind of group they saw could have belonged to Robert D. Montesquieu, who was so this is from Wikipedia. It says a non-supernatural explanation of the events was proposed by Philippe Gillian in his 1965 biography of the aristocratic decadent French poet Robert de Montesquieu. At the time of Moberly and Jourdain's excursion to Versailles, Montesquieu lived nearby and reportedly gave parties in the grounds where his friends dressed in period costume and performed tableau vivants. So basically, it's basically what she
Oh,
described of like them doing like certain acting out like little scenes like all around the grounds and stuff like
like
that in
kind of
period dress.
posing
Yeah.
as if you're doing some day to
Hmm.
day chore of the
Yeah.
time.
So he was known for
I
doing that
mean,
on the
that would be
grounds.
a lot. I
Yeah.
have opinions on this.
Um, Also saying that this was part of party entertainment. It's like these parties he would
Oh,
hold. It's
okay.
continued saying Moberly and Jourdain may have inadvertently gate crashed a gay fancy dress party that they confused for a haunting. Uh,
What?
the
And then nobody
Marie.
broke character? Like that
No.
trend that went around on like TikTok where everybody had to pretend they were like a statue
Yeah.
and they would all, yeah, it was a couple of years back and everybody just like froze and then the
Oh
camera
yeah.
panned around and everybody was just like standing frozen. It was so stupid. But
Are
like,
you ready
come
for?
on.
Are you ready for the savage part? I'm I'm gonna
I
try and
don't
get through
know.
this.
That was
Uh,
savage.
oh, it gets worse. The Marie Antoinette figure could have been a society lady or a crossdresser. The
Oh,
pockmarked man Montesquieu himself. Uh, it was suggested that a gathering
okay.
of the French decadent avant garde of this time could have made a sinister impression on the two middle class Edwardian spinsters who would have had
Oh
been little used to such company.
my God.
Like, is that not? Oh, I love how that was worded.
Such classist shit. What the fuck? They could not have possibly recognized walking in on a bunch of rich people. Wouldn't the rich
Rich
people
gay
remember
people.
seeing them?
I don't
Wouldn't
know.
they have been
Yeah,
like, "What the fuck are you doing here? Get out!" And
but just
I
like,
yeah.
just
Oh,
uh, yeah, two middle class Edwardian spinsters.
ugh,
Savage.
gross. Everybody's a
um,
spinster that doesn't have 15 children back then, like their
right?
moms.
Yeah.
Oh,
Other explanations include this we kind of talked about a shared delusion that arose from this lesbian folie à deux,
oh
or
God.
shared delusion of two, basically, between the two women. Some accounts also say it could have been a hallucinatory experience that was elaborated upon after their research after the fact. So maybe they like kind of a memory you don't quite remember properly. Um, which I
I
mean, that
mean,
has been proven. There's in like witnesses and crimes and stuff like that, people can start misremembering stuff if they like find out details and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I saw that," and kind of stuff sometimes.
yeah, I guess sort of as a like a confirmation bias almost, but
Yeah.
like, they did such good remembering that she remembered like 12 bars of musical notes and then they were like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, that
That
was an
is
old
pretty.
fucking piece of music or whatever."
Yeah,
Well,
from the time period.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy.
Um
Don't insult their intelligence. No.
uh, oh, I scrolled down weird and then I was like, "What page am I on?" Um, so from Wikipedia, this was another thing. Um, Brian Dunning of Skeptoid, must be a website or something, a web newspaper, who knows.
Nice.
He concluded that Moberly and Jourdain were simply human and were mistaken. He notes that editions of an adventure were embellished each time they were published, like which wasn't their fault. It was probably the publishers. And
I mean, yeah.
inconsistencies in their memories all were apparent. For example, in the second edition, the pair wrote that Moberly did not mention the sketching woman to Jourdain until 3 months after their visit to Versailles, and
Right.
Jourdain did not remember such a thing. In contrast, Moberly did not remember much of what Jourdain described, and it was only after much discussion, note sharing, and historical research that Moberly and Jourdain came up with the time period of 1789. and assigned identities to a few of the characters they saw, including Marie Antoinette as the lady sketching on the lawn. As Moberly and Jourdain admitted, they had been lost on the grounds of Versailles, and Dunning notes that their descriptions of footbridges and kiosks could fit any number of existing structures. But again, that's like structures that are there today, not necessarily there at that time.
Yeah, and like a lot of the stuff they did agree on was very specific, and
Yeah,
just because you don't remember the same thing your friend does walking down the street doesn't mean it wasn't there. You're not
yeah,
like,
exactly.
hey, look at that person. Did you see that guy picking his butt? Like, oh, there's a dog over there. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Not
um,
noticing the same thing always.
yeah. I kind of mentioned before this was from Wikipedia, but it mentioned it in lots of other sources, saying both women claimed many paranormal experiences before and after their adventure.
Oh.
And one of them, Moberly, claimed to have seen in the Louvre in 1914 an apparition of the Roman Emperor Constantine, a man
Okay.
a man who is described with unusual height, being 6 to 7 feet tall, so he would have stood out, wearing a gold
Six to
crown.
seven. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
somewhere
not.
between 6 and 7 feet tall, wearing a gold crown and a toga. So that'd be very weird to see in the Louvre. uh,
Oh, she saw him like
yeah,
just randomly standing there in the museum,
yeah,
not
and
like
he
as part
was
of an exhibit.
no, and he was not seen by anybody else. It's just chilling.
Okay.
So also during the First World War, Jourdain, the this said the dominant personality of the pair who succeeded as principal,
Okay.
um, she became convinced, this is kind of weird, that a German spy was hiding in the college. And after developing increasingly erratic behavior, she suddenly died in 1924.
Suddenly died.
Oh. Yeah, she had like the heart attack, I think it was.
Oh, right.
Maybe that's what she was doing. Maybe she thought the German spy was the colleague that she didn't like or something that she was trying to have fired. That might have been what that was.
Huh. That's odd.
It said she died suddenly in 1924 in the middle of an academic scandal over the leadership of the college. Her conduct having provoked mass resignations of academic staff when she
Okay.
suddenly died in 1930. Oh, Moberly died in 1937, so she died 13 years later. Um,
That's interesting.
yeah.
I mean, this probably followed
Um,
them around though for a while.
yeah.
Just guessing.
Well, their identities weren't revealed until 1931, so Jourdain
Okay.
was already dead and Moberly died 6 years later. So,
I mean, I don't
yeah.
blame them for not wanting
Yeah.
to talk about it the way people act.
Yeah. Um, from Wikipedia, it said Dame Joan Evans, who owned the copyright to an adventure, accepted the Jillian explanation, or Julian, sorry, explanation, and that's the one about the Robert D. Montesquieu and the fancy gay dress parties. Um,
Okay.
so
As I
she
roll my
accepts
eyes.
that, um, and she actually forbade there being any further editions of the book after the five. However,
What? Okay.
um, the work, and I guess it ended up coming out of the copyright. I assume past like 100 years or something.
Ah, okay.
Or I don't know, it couldn't have been that long because it says it was republished in 1988. Uh,
Well, I
yeah,
don't
so I don't
understand
know,
how someone
maybe
could
50
ban a
years.
publication anyway. That's seems
Well,
odd.
she owned the copyright, so I think she just didn't let it be published by anybody else because she had the copyright.
Oh, and then
Yeah.
maybe she died or something.
Yeah, somehow it came out of copyright. It was republished in 1988 as The Ghost of Trion, and it said The Complete and
Oh.
Adventure by Thoth Publication, and again in 2008 by Create Space, both times crediting Moberly and Jourdain as the authors. So with their proper
Okay.
names instead of the like ghostwriter names they used the first time.
Yeah.
Uh, the book and adventure was made into a TV film entitled Morrison's Ghosts in 1981,
Amazing.
and Miss Elizabeth Morrison was the pen name one of them used, so they entitled the film Miss Morrison's Ghosts.
And that's before it was republished then. Huh.
Yeah, actually, because it was republished in 88 and that was 81. Yeah.
Right.
And the BBC also broadcast a 90-minute radio dramatization in 2004 and again in 2015. I didn't
So
know
this one
that
has had a lot of press.
Yeah, I did not know they still did radio dramatizations in the 2000s. Sounds fun.
I
um,
mean, and now some of it's just moving to podcasts, which are
yeah.
dramatizations.
Dramatizations. Pretend you're in the Palace of Versailles with me and we're seeing Marie Antoinette. Um,
Ew, pip pip.
Let
Wait,
them
are they
eat cake.
British? I'm
Let
like,
them
are they
eat.
British? Wait, what am I doing? I don't know.
And then from my last little bit, was just saying from the Sciencyclopedia that Moberly and Jourdain's relevant papers were given to Oxford University by Moberly in 1928 and are held in the Bodleian Library. Bodleian. They include the
Mm.
pair's accounts of their visits to Versailles, their collected maps, engravings, and photos, their second and third editions of An Adventure, and the original correspondence with the SPR. I don't know what that is.
The
For
Society of Psychical Research.
okay. Um,
I'm sorry, I listen to And That's Why We Drink, so I've learned a few things.
so their collection at the library includes the original correspondence with them from 1911 to 1913, along
Wow.
with their diaries from around 1901, as well as various other items, which is pretty cool.
Mm.
That's what's given to Oxford University. So maybe they still have them. That'd
Okay.
be pretty coul. It said they're held in the Bodleian Library. Somebody go to the library and check these out now.
I have
I want
heard
to
of
know.
this library that come up. That one
Oh,
came up
okay.
in Discovery of Witches. That book series
Oh,
slash
okay.
TV show. Yeah, they're like, there's this magical book there, and she works there, and whatever. It's cool.
Cool.
That's so
Yeah, but
neat.
that's what I have. I had
Wow.
never heard of this before. It was pretty cool looking it up.
I'm sure it's. I knew the name of it because I was like, we need to do
Yeah.
time slips. I think there's this one called this, but like that's. I don't think we've ever talked about it in depth, so I'm really
Yeah.
glad that you covered that because
Yeah, it was
it's
nice.
very cool and
Yeah.
I think pretty persuasive. I love the ones where like if you see someone that could be historical, like that's just I don't know. You can kind of fact check it and stuff like that. Like they tried to almost debunk themselves. They were like, "Let's see if we can
Yeah.
research and like disprove what the hell we saw," and then they like basically couldn't. They're like, "Nope, that's kind of all from this time period." It's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, the different buildings and who they saw and
Yeah.
what the grounds looked like and all
I
that kind
think
of stuff all kind of led them to a certain time period.
yeah, yeah, like there wasn't like a plow on the grounds after that time or whatever. They're like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
it
like
hasn't
that
been
would have been
plowed in
pretty.
years."
Yeah, I mean it's fancy grounds. It's not farmland.
No.
They
Yeah,
aren't
but
going
I
to have
think
a
it
farmhouse and everything in 1901 and like this fucking plow in the middle of the road.
right, because it's already a tourist place now, but like at
Yeah.
her time or like
Yeah.
I don't know, I think I read that one of the Louis kept a plow on there or whatever. Yeah, it's just so cool. It's just like,
Yeah.
what? Ugh, I love it. That was really good.
Thanks.
Well, we will take a quick break as per usual and fill your head with some more.
Yes.
Maybe we'll get to have our own time slip one day. It'd be creepy, right?
Yeah, I don't think I'd enjoy it.
It would be very unsettling, that's for sure. But I think as long
Yeah.
as you come back pretty quickly, then you're kind of like,
Yeah.
Whoa, okay, wait, what just happened?
But we promise to tell you guys all about it if it happens, but it will be on
Yeah,
Patreon, so you have to join Patreon.
it will be. That's Patreon only
Yeah.
content for sure.
Paid only. Sorry. Sorry.
Behind the paywall.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll catch you in a minute. Okay, we're back after a few technical difficulties.
Yeah.
It let us in, thank God. Technology, we rely so much on you. I thought my
Right?
laptop was gonna like die the other day, and then I was like,
Oh.
yeah, like it wasn't coming back on, and I was like, what is happening? I need you.
I did that one time. What did I do? I think I turned my laptop off and it was basically at like 10% battery when it's like charge me, plug me in. It
Yeah,
kept coming up with warnings like you need to plug me in.
critically low battery.
Yeah, well, I had
Yeah,
basically just like powered it off and been like, "Okay, good night." And I got up the next morning and tried to turn my laptop on. I even plugged it in because I knew I'd like
right. Yeah.
gone to bed and it had been dangerously low. So I plugged it in. I couldn't get it to turn on. Didn't turn on for 45 minutes because it was
Mm.
that low. It wouldn't even power on while it was plugged in.
Oh my God.
It was so
That's
brutal.
insane.
And then when it finally came up, after I think about half an hour, it came up with like this weird looking screen that wasn't like the SCART screen. And I looked it up and they're like, this is
Oh.
basically the blue screen of like death. And I was like, oh my God, I like murdered my laptop.
Oh my God,
And
no.
then I think I restarted again after that, and then it came up, and I was like, okay, I know for next time, never turn my laptop on when it needs to be plugged in. Like, never shut it off and like leave it overnight like that again. I won't do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Jeez, gave me a
It's
heart
not worth
attack.
it.
And I was like, oh my God. Yeah,
Ugh. We rely on these things.
especially me. Like, I just have my
Yeah.
phone, and then I don't have cable. Like, and my laptop is. If I'm at home, my laptop is with me. Like, unless I'm reading on my
Yeah.
Kindle, my laptop is in use. So,
That's true. That's true. And I say that I keep mine a lot of times up here in my office, and then I'll hear some podcasters be like, "Oh yeah, and that wasn't working for me." I heard someone say today, she goes, "Cause yeah, technology. Because if you're new here, I'm 90," and the other one's like, "And I'm chronically online," and I'm like, I wonder if one
yeah.
of us is considered chronically online because I'm like, I'm online like a lot, but then I'm like, on my phone playing games or reading a book or whatever, watching TV.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I'm like, or I'm online because I'm researching. It's not like I'm
Yeah. Well, see, I
always.
rarely turn my TV on to watch something. So
Yeah.
99% of a watch is on my laptop. So even when I'm watching TV, it's on my laptop.
Which is so, if I
So,
turn my laptop on, I don't have my headphones in, it's so fucking quiet. I can hardly hear it. I'm like, what the fuck?
yeah.
I'll be like editing. I'm
I
like, are we this quiet? And then I'm like, I should just put my headphones in because we sound so much louder when you have headphones in. And if,
yeah.
otherwise, my laptop speakers are just like shite.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine aren't as good in this one as they were on my old laptop. But
Yeah.
yeah, decent enough. But yeah, if I'm watching a movie or getting ready for work, I'm probably watching a TV show or a movie or listening to music. So I'm carrying my laptop from room to room. I'm pausing a TV show so I can go into another room to quickly grab something.
Oh, that's
And
why I love
I'm
wireless
carrying it in.
headphones. You don't have to like cart your phone around. You can be 10 meters away from it and you're still gonna play.
Yeah.
You could be like
But like when you're watching
vacuuming,
a
whatever.
movie or whatever, you want to see the screen. So like
Yeah.
pause something and where I'll a lot of the times if I'm just going to the bathroom, I'll just take my laptop with me and I balance it on the edge of the tub and I keep watching a movie while I go to the bathroom.
Well, you have to have something to entertain you there.
Yeah, I can't be alone with my thoughts for 2 minutes.
No, God, no. That's ridiculous. So we
And
might
lots of times,
self-reflect.
even when I'm watching a movie or anything, if it's I'm not like super interested in it, I'll split screen. I'll start browsing Facebook or the news at the same time as watching a movie.
Somebody let
Yeah.
my fat ass dog in.
Oh,
Hi,
but
buddy. You didn't want to come inside.
yeah.
Um, So we talked a little bit before we were on air about um, we were talking about books,
Yeah.
and I just finished a book that I got at the library like a couple weeks ago when I was dropping off a book that I had to put a hold on. So I figured I had been done it for like a day or two, and I was like, I better get this back to the library, even though like by the time I was doing this, it was like gonna close in like half an hour. So I
Mm.
was like, all right, it's close to me. I can just run in, drop this off, and maybe grab a book or
Yeah.
two and run out. I don't want to be that person. Because and when I got there was like a lot of people still there, and they're like walking around like, hey guys, just so you know, we close in 15 minutes. And I was like, yep. I was in and
Yeah.
out in like 5 to 10. Like I was
That's
not,
good. Yeah.
yeah, I was not lingering. I dropped off my book and then I went and looked in like a couple sections and then I was gone. So I like looked in the there's a nonfiction section that has like some true crime and some other stuff, and that's where I picked up that book about um drunk sipping and stumbling and all about
Oh
intoxication
yeah.
through history and like different things like that, and that was really cool. And then I grabbed like I stopped by the other section that I like, which is like the fiction. It's got there's one section that has like historical fiction and mysteries and other things that I like. So I had grabbed this book, like, but really quickly without really reading the back and stuff like that. It
Yeah.
had a cool title and it was called The Huntress, and I was like, ooh, that's cool. And I like barely read the book and took it home, and so I was like started reading it um like 5 days ago, and like we recorded our spy episode like not that long ago, right? And then I talked about the night
No. Yeah.
witches,
Yeah.
and then I'm reading this book, and then it's set around World War II, and then this character is Russian, and then she sees a plane, and then the next thing I know she's making her way to freaking Maria Roskova, and she's joining the freaking Night Witches Bomber Regiment. And I'm like, are you serious?
Oh, that's so weird. Out of all the books in the library. That's
I'm
crazy.
like, I did not pick this because it said anything
Yeah.
about that. There's nothing about that on the back. It's
Wow.
historical fiction, so there's some, stuff weaved in. Like I said, it's set in World War II and stuff like that. But like I did not know that it was about that when I picked it up. And like I don't even think
Yeah.
that hadn't even been on my radar again when I went to the library that day, because I'd heard about it, the night witches and stuff before, but it wasn't until I had heard another more recent episode that I was like, oh, I should really like to talk about this. So I was like, what
Yeah.
the hell? This is talking about characters I know.
So
Like,
weird. That's
oh, it was
cool.
so
Right
cool.
after you talked about them.
Oh
Nice.
my god. Such a good book, let me tell you. It was
Oh.
so good. Yeah, because the Huntress was this mistress of a SS, Nazi high up guy, and they were hunting her because she had like killed small kids that were like just trying to flee the war. Like she
Oh
was this
wow.
horrible person. Anyway, it was really good. And I think the author's pretty famous because she also has another book that when I'd heard of, I was like, oh, the Alice Network. Like that
Yeah, we did that in our
sounded
book club.
familiar. Okay, did we? Because it sounded familiar to me, but
Yeah,
I didn't think I had read it. I
that
was like,
was the fuck, what was it?
I think it's about a group of female spies.
Yeah, that was the spy one. I never ended up finishing that one before book club, but I only know because
Okay.
I was sorting through all the books on my Kindle the other day and I saw it and I was like, "Oh yeah."
Really? Because
Yeah.
it definitely sounded familiar to me, but I didn't remember if I'd read it. I was like, did this turn out to be a movie or something? Like it sounds familiar,
Yeah,
but I
it
don't
was
remember.
one of our book club books.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could
Yeah, it was
reread it because like she was a really good author. I was like, this would make a
oh,
great movie.
that's cool. I went through because I was
So funny.
browsing through Amazon Prime because they have this thing, they have lots of books that are like 99 cents or stuff like that. So I was looking through to see what the new deals were for the month, and they also have ones you can borrow these books. It's called Prime Unlimited, so you can borrow like six to
Oh,
ten books from Amazon. As like all
like a
these like
library?
Yeah, basically, because that's what Amazon was supposed to
Weird.
be in the beginning. It was supposed to be a library. That's what the wife like intended it for it to be, and then she, or that's what he wanted it
What?
to be, and then Bezos's wife like pushed him to make it an e-commerce store and everything because
Oh
originally it was supposed to be
no.
an e-library, but
Really?
yeah,
Weird.
um so they have all this stuff so you can essentially they have all these titles you can borrow. Well, I found a bunch of the titles you
Oh.
can borrow are like really big like literary ones like fucking Frankenstein and like all these
Oh, yeah,
Shakespeare ones.
classics.
Yeah, like really big classic names, a whole bunch of them, like 50 to 100 of them are on
Damn.
there that you can like borrow for free. So I was putting all these ones, and then after a couple it basically said I had borrowed as many as I could, and then on the next screen I looked at, it listed um it listed the book, and then it said buy, and I was like, well, what's the cost to buy? And it said buy it for free. And I was like, well, why am I borrowing it for free when I can buy it from Prime for free? So I clicked buy, and then
Weird.
it was like, we've added it to your Kindle. And I was like, but you didn't charge me anything. And I was like, okay. So I went through, and I think I added like 30 of these huge classical like
No way.
novels to my Kindle, all for free. All of them were like $0, and now I own them forever. And I'm like, baller. Like,
That's
that's
good. I mean, and like it should
so
be just the
cool.
way the
Yeah.
rights, yeah, like we were talking about just a minute ago, where like something the
Yeah,
rights,
copyright and stuff. I don't
copyrights,
know.
thank you,
I don't know
run
how
out on
they.
something. You can use it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like all these books. Like I have um Through the Looking Glass. I have Wizard of
Oh,
Oz is on there.
oh
Frankenstein.
damn.
I have Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I have
Yeah, I never read
like a whole
any of
bunch of
those.
Shakespeare plays because I really love Hamlet. And then I got like Midsummer's Night Dream. I got um like four or five other ones, and then I got the Lost Worlds by uh I think I had talked about it, H.G. Wells or whatever. A couple of
Oh,
his
okay.
books
Not
that
the
we.
Lost World, like the Jurassic.
No, no. There was like an
Michael
H.G.
Crichton.
Wells book. There was like some other ones that I was like, we've talked about these on the podcast. Like, this is the one that he predicted, quote unquote, predicted the future. And I was
Right.
like,
I've
and now I own
never
it for
read
free. So it's
him.
like, that's so cool. Just
That
having
is
so much fun.
cool. That is
I was
cool.
up
I
till
would like to
12:30
read.
at I was up till midnight adding these books to my Kindle going, "Oh my god." Yeah,
Nice.
browsing through about 150 pages worth of books on Amazon, trying to find as
I was
many
just eating
classics as I
cereal
could.
and watching The Office. Way too close to bedtime because my friend
Yeah.
goes, "Oh, that gives me weird dreams. I can't eat." I was like, "Oh yeah, I think I did have weird dreams this morning," where I was like
Yeah.
at some weird job. I don't know.
Anyway, I'm excited to
No.
hear your case.
Oh, I have a couple of shallow dives, which is kind of fun because,
Mhm. Sometimes that's all you can
yeah,
find, so.
I know, and I don't know, just because they're shorter doesn't mean that they're less important, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, funnily enough, mine, like we were just at haunted castles, not too long ago, and then it's like this one of the first lists I stumble on, he's collecting these stories from around like
Oh,
England and
yeah.
the UK, and I'm like, how did I do this again? um so yeah, the source that I first relied upon was from medium.com, which is
Yeah.
sometimes a pretty fun website.
Yeah, I've used them a few times too.
Yeah. Like they're like, you know, I like them like Atlas Obscura and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, Five chilling instances of time slips, and as told to the author Tony, what's his name? I don't know. I thought I had it, but maybe I don't. But anyway, that's why some of these ones they're definitely lesser known, I would say, because they're just like from this little region.
Hmm.
Um But yeah, the first one's in Penrith, I guess it's called, Cumbria in England, jolly old England. Oh, and the stories this Tony guy was collecting was for a book called The Ghostly Guide to the Lake District.
Oh, okay.
And the time this was coming out was 1998. Picture it.
I
You
will. I
know.
wasn't born yet.
1998?
Oh, sorry.
Wait.
I thought you said 1988.
Oh!
I was like, I was not born yet.
Right, right, right. I
No,
was 10, whale tail thongs were starting to become a thing. Britney Spears. It was big. So,
I was too young.
so an Angela Charlton gets in touch with Tony with her tale, her weird tale. Because he's collecting paranormal, yeah, like I said, paranormal stories. Ghostly Guide to the Lake District is his book. But weirdly enough, and one of the reasons why I mentioned that the author's name was Tony was she wrote in the story and told him that like it happened in this house, and he's like, "Oh, that's the house that I live in now."
Oh no,
Great.
that's
Okay.
creepy. I would not like
Yeah.
that.
Well, he was asking for, I guess, really pretty local stories, so it's kind of like, whoa, that's more local maybe than you even counted on.
Jeez, that's like in
I
horror movies when
know.
people move into a new house and then everybody in the town's just like, you live in that house. Don't you know
Yeah.
its history?
Right.
And he like lived that of like, I'm gonna tell you a ghost story about your own fucking house.
Definitely a creepier synchronicity than me reading that book on the
Yeah.
case I just covered, but still both pretty cool. So she'd been walking up this steep path on Beacon Hill as a teenager. It was August, just like yours.
Yeah.
She was walking with her girlfriend, and they were on a path that took about 15 minutes to walk from Beacon's edge, I guess. And it zigs and zags and is quite thickly wooded along the path. So they're chatting and walking along. In the back of their minds, they notice that it's growing heavy in atmosphere. Almost, they said, as if like a storm was coming, perhaps.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we all kind of know, like, if it's going to rain or something, it has a certain smell in the air.
Yeah, you can feel it sometimes.
Yeah. Feel it in your bum knee. No.
Yeah.
But they turned a corner and saw an oddly old-fashioned cottage made of stone. And although they'd been here 100 times, they'd never seen that cottage before.
Creepy.
Excuse me. Yeah, a mysterious cottage. Smoke was coming from the chimney, and they were like, "What the hell?" And they start freaking out. And then when the door begins to open, they just ran like their lives depended on it. They just booked it,
Yeah.
I guess.
I mean, I would do the
Um,
same. Yeah.
yeah. So that was a pretty short one because they were like, "We never saw the cottage again." And she said, like Angela said, her friend would never even talk about it.
Yeah, that'd be pretty creepy. Just walking down the street and suddenly a house is
Yeah,
there
we're
that you never saw before.
right because it's like your neighborhood, so you know it really well, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Okay, so that was in England, and then he had one from slightly further out, but still in the UK, from Pembroke, Wales. And this was told to Tony, the author of that book there, who's gathering the stories, told to him by his student who attended his class on ghosts and legends. Fun. So, as his uh, student Roger recounted it, I imagine he's an adult. Like, I think it's an adult class.
Oh,
Because Roger recounted it that he and his family had been visiting the Pembroke Castle in Wales, him and like his wife and kids. So they were climbing up the tower, and probably the kids were complaining about the trek and whining as kids tend to do when they have to walk upstairs.
yeah.
And he had pulled ahead of them and was like a flight or two ahead of his family. and reached the top of the tower where he looked out of the windows, and he looked down onto the river or whatever, river, lake, whatever the water was, to see some medieval boats floating on the water. And he was kind of like, huh, okay, must be like some special event or whatever, like a festival. And
Yeah.
that makes sense to me because, like, they
Yeah.
do, yeah, there's boat festivals in, or it's called the Tall Ships Festival. They would have it in Halifax. And
Okay.
yeah, they would have old boats, like the old Blue Nose that's on our Canadian dime. They have like a, restored Blue Nose too, or whatever. Yeah, so maybe he thought it was some special ship thing, but he was the only one that ever saw the boats. And when they walked back down to the ground floor and outside and onto like they could see the water, there was no boats. Nobody ever saw them but
Yeah.
him. Yeah.
And they aren't like motorboats. They wouldn't just disappear
Yeah,
that
exactly. It was
fast.
like a Viking longship or whatever.
Yeah. Just gone.
Yeah, it's like, it was a weird reenactment.
Yeah. Just poof, they flew away.
Yeah. But I love that a lot of these are like, historical and like in castles and stuff because
Yeah. Of course
we
they
love
are.
we love castles. Yeah, of course it's the UK. They have like a million.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one is in Leeds Castle in Kent. And I don't think this was reported to him directly. It was more of a historical tale that he must have heard, kind of like the Moberly-Jourdain one. Because this was about a woman named Alice Pollock who lived from 1868 to 1971. God, what a time to be alive from the frickin' 1800s to 71. That'd be so weird. Like, you'd go through so much.
She's like 103 then.
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. You're
Jesus.
right. You're right. Yeah. Yeah, she
Okay.
got old. Like my Aunt
Wow.
Elsie. She was born into the minor aristocracy, so, she's a little bit richy, and was invited to the Leeds Castle, this picturesque castle, for the use of her psychic services. She was a practitioner of psychometry. I'm guessing that's how you say it, not psychometry.
Probably
um,
psychometry, yeah.
yeah, that one
I have
sounds
no
better.
idea. Yeah.
I know. I know. I don't think I'd ever heard of it. But it is basically touching objects in order to read them for like their history or whatever you can pick up
Okay.
from them. Yeah.
It's common in a lot of movies. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I just was like, oh, that's what you call that? Not just like being psychic, quote unquote. And she was actually doing this in Henry the. Oh, I wrote Henry the Seventh. I guess it was Henry the Seventh, but I thought maybe it was Henry the Eighth, and now I'm wondering if I left off one of the
Oh,
eyes.
yeah.
It was a long time ago. As she was doing this, she was transported back to another time where she could see everything around her just change. Um, the castle became cold. Suddenly, the carpet disappeared from under her feet, and now a blazing fire was going in the fireplace. And there was also a tall woman pacing back and forth in apparent, concentration or frustration. But it all just flipped back to her time pretty suddenly. But later research on her part would confirm that this was probably when Joan of Navarre was imprisoned, which it said Joan was Henry V's stepmother, who was alive from 1368 to 1437. And she had been locked up on suspicions of plotting treason against her son and was later released. So they could kind of
Hmm.
confirm that that's who would have been locked up there for a woman. So that's kind of
Yeah,
cool.
that's creepy.
Creepy. Um, sorry, I had a little bit on the his next one on the list, like I did not know it was on the list, but it was the Moberly-Jourdain. And so then I
Oh,
had a few, that's why I had to go past. But you know me, I always have more than enough.
yeah. I think we both normally do, yeah.
Well, and one I kept mentioning to you that I said, I think it's in Liverpool. I think it's in Liverpool, was this place called Bold Street, Liverpool, which has a few incidents attached to it. So it's kind of
Yeah.
cool.
I think I ran across it when I was looking up before I settled
Yeah.
on mine. And then when you said you were doing a street, I was like, oh, okay, I'll stay away from that one. But I had already read a bit about it.
Right, and I haven't done deep dives as in like looking and looking, but I've heard people say like, "Oh my god, you just Google time slips and you can kind of fall down a rabbit hole." And apparently there's hundreds, but I think yeah, we got to some of the most well-known ones, which is
Yeah.
cool. If you guys want more, I love it. We'll do more.
Yeah.
um okay, so this is from Bold Street in Liverpool, and the first account was of or from an off duty cop named Frank who was out shopping with his wife Carol in July of 1996. Kelsey
Okay.
was one.
Yeah.
um,
I was like 1.5. I was 18 months old.
well, this really puts it into perspective. She wanted to grab a copy of a debut novel by writer Irvine Welsh that was just a couple of years old at the time, Train Spotting.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Have not watched the movies yet.
Oh, really?
Not
Okay.
yet.
I mean, I guess I was into some drugs for a while, and then you watch the drug movies.
Yeah.
Train Spotting. Oh, there's another one.
Fear and Loathing in Las
Is
Vegas.
it? Well, there's that, but is there one called like 21 grams or there's one
Yeah.
where they're like famously super addicted to like meth or whatever, and I cannot remember what it's called right now, but it's pretty famous, pretty well known. I'll remember it later when it's not important. um but yeah, that's what she wanted to go get, and Frank decided to go over to HMV on,
Oh
I don't know how
God!
to say it.
Back when they still
Yeah,
were around. Yeah.
I know we had HMV here in Canada.
Yeah, but then the Canada company wanted to separate from the American company, and when they did, they went
Mm,
bankrupt because they weren't profitable enough
shit.
without the American company subsidizing them. So then they went under,
Oh, okay.
and all their stores closed. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of like the Sam the Record Man or whatever too, though. There's stuff that nowadays we
Yeah.
just download so much that a lot of that we don't sell CDs or DVDs really as much anymore. Like
Yeah.
Pat used to go into HMV all the time for his latest DVDs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the nice thing was if you were looking for something across Canada, you could look at any of our stores and we could ship it between stores. So like if you needed a specific season
Um,
of something, we could order it from a supplier in the anywhere in the world that we could get it,
uh,
or we could have it shipped like across Canada for you free of charge. So people really
yeah.
appreciated that, but I don't know. I always felt bad because I had left, and then it was a couple years after I left that they closed. And when they closed, I had messaged one of my friends that was still working there and was like, "Hey, I heard on the news like HMB is closing." And she's like, "What?" And I was like, "Here's the article." So they hadn't even been told yet when the
Oh
news broke. And
no.
so I messaged her the article on fucking Facebook, being
Isn't
like,
that
"Hey." And
awful?
then she's like, "Oh my God." She's like, "I go to work like tomorrow." She's like, "I'm gonna have to ask about this." And that's when they told them, "Yeah, we're
Right?
closing." I was like, "Fuck you."
That's
Yeah.
terrible.
The only good
Yeah,
news is the company that
that's
was taking them over was basically the same thing. They're called Sunshine Records, and
okay.
they offered them all like their jobs. We're like, yeah, if you want to become employed, like we will keep you all on as your
Good.
jobs. Everything will stay the same. We're just changing names basically. Yeah.
That's pretty shitty. And yeah, working for the company I
Yeah.
work for, they're pretty notorious for, like, you'll hear something from the public where they're like, "Aren't you guys doing this?" And you're like, "Oh, I guess maybe. I'm probably the
Yeah,
last to
right?
know."
Yeah.
Yeah. Shitty. Um, okay. Yeah, Frank went over to HMV on this unpronounceable street. Ranelagh Street? I don't know. So on his way there, he bumps into a friend and they end up chatting for a bit. So by the time he goes back to meet his wife, it's about 20 minutes later when he's heading back to the bookstore. And he's starting up the slight incline from Central Station. He starts noticing some strange sights. Like, it's oddly quiet, and then he notices there are cobblestones under his feet instead of pavement. Um,
Weird. Yeah.
yeah. And the clothes look like I put like straight out of Greece, like poodle skirts everywhere.
Fun.
Uh, he hears a loud horn and a box van speeds by, missing him by inches, and it says Kaplan's on the side of it. Um, so he's a little confused, but he continues towards the bookstore, but it's apparently not there. Um, in its place is a storefront that just said Crips on it. That's the name of the store. Um, Inside, it kind of looks like a woman's boutique, as it's full of like handbags and shoes and other accessories. Um, but it's where the bookstore should be, so he's kind of like, okay.
Where's my wife?
Yeah, he's just very confused. And as he is sitting there, he kind of notices that one other person seems to kind of stand out, like he probably must be doing, because she seems to be dressed in 90s attire, like hipster jeans, it said, and a sleeveless top. Uh,
Yeah, that'd be a little
Not
weird.
1950s.
Yeah.
And she's carrying like a modern plastic bag from Miss Selfridge's, and she looked lost also. So they kind of both enter the boutique, and that's when everything like snaps back to reality. And the woman with the Miss Selfridge's bag looks at him like, that was weird. And she said, that was strange. I thought this was a new clothes shop. But it was back to being a bookstore. The bookstore was called Waterstones. Like, if they went back outside and looked at the name, it was completely different.
Weird. Yeah, that's pretty creepy.
I know. And like, it's like very much a snapshot into a different age, because you can be like, okay, well, when was this store here? Like, you have a specific time
Yeah.
frame just by your memories. And then yeah, he found out a woman's outfitter store called Crips did exist there in the 1950s, and it was replaced by Dillon's. So it's a weird one. There's a couple stories like this on the street. And unlike an outlandish stone circle, this time portal seems to bring you back just a few decades rather than like a few hundred years or something more dramatic.
Yeah, that's what I'd much rather, a few decades.
Yeah. A little easier to handle. You're not like, what the fuck? There's Marie Antoinette?
Yeah. A
No,
horse
you're
drawn
like,
carriage? Dinosaurs? No.
yeah. Or depending how long you're back there, like, she's a witch.
Yeah, I'd still like to be around at least functioning cars. Like,
Yeah, 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 yeah. Um, so the second story from the area involves a young lady named Imogen, which, thanks to the latest season of Critical Role, I'm not pronouncing it Imogen, which is what I want to say in my head,
yeah.
because it's such an old-fashioned name, like, that you don't hear anymore. But Imogen, a young woman in Liverpool, is going to buy some baby stuff for her sister Abigail, and she found it was called a mother care store on the corner of Lord Street in Whitechapel. Spell check made me separate mother care. I was like, I think that's the name of it. But anyway. So she wanders around grabbing some baby clothes and accessories and whatever, and she's just shocked at how cheap they seem there. Like dirt cheap price tags. She's just like, hell yeah.
95 cents. Done.
Oh yeah, like you might as well be in a thrift store. She's just like, oh, we've been to the thrift store when it was like all you could stuff into a bag for $5. I've been to those sales.
Jeez.
Right. I mean it's secondhand stuff, so why not? So she takes her loot up to the cashier to like pay for it. But when she pulls out her credit card, the cashier is very confused, staring blankly at her and like has to go get her manager, who then tells her like we can't accept that, like
Oh,
whatever that
that's
is.
weird.
Mhm.
Okay. I would have thought she would have like snapped right back or something.
Yes, she's interacting with these people who are like,
Yeah.
we don't know what this little piece of plastic is you're shoving at us. So she's disappointed and she leaves and goes home, where she then complains to her mom how she'd failed to pick up these items that seemed so cheap. And she's describing it and everything, and her mom is just looking at her oddly, who then just says, honey, that store has been closed for years. That's a bank now. Like, that's where I do my banking. There's no baby
Creepy.
store. Yeah, her mom like immediately recognized like and was like, that store is no longer there. And they tried to go back the next day, and lo and behold, it was still just a bank. Couldn't find it.
Jeez. Yeah, that's weird.
I know, that one's so specifically weird.
Yeah, because you're right. Normally, you aren't interacting with the people more than a few words.
Right. Yeah, it is. Yeah, because if it's something residual that you can just see, but you're not really interacting with,
Yeah.
you're right. They probably wouldn't have been able to have a conversation or whatever. um, the third one was also in Liverpool, but I don't know if it was right on that street because they mention a different street, but involves a man named Sean, um, Sean, Scene. No. And, and this one's from 2006, so it's a few years later. Um, and it's also different because he was, you know how you like thieves, as you were saying. He was thieving. He was caught shoplifting.
Jeez.
So this guard was chasing him as he was booking it down this street called Hanover Street. Like he ran out of the shop, whatever, and took off. So then he turns down a dead end street called Brooks Alley, and he's trying to shake the guard. Um, but then he obviously hit a dead end, so I think he's just bent over, catching his breath, kind of thinking like, "Shit, I'm trapped now," waiting for the guard just to appear behind him. But nobody follows him down the alley as the guard is just nowhere in sight. He's disappeared.
Okay.
Right. So he looks around and he kind of starts to notice that shit's looking a little off. The cars seem like they're those old boat style, very boxy,
Yeah.
honky cars. Um, it said the road works were gone, so I think that means like road construction that had been happening, maybe.
I think so,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, something like that. And people were wearing just funny clothes and more fancy hats and dressed differently. There was also traffic lights appeared where he knew there weren't any before, and there were bushes growing up in an area around the Lyceum, I guess near a bar that he recognized. So he was like, none of this looks really as I remember it to be. And he took out his cell phone, which is what I would want to do if I
Yeah.
thought I was somewhere
A
else.
hundred
But
percent.
I know, you always wonder, like, what would you do? Would you take out your phone if you were back in time? And he took it out, but it didn't work because,
Damn it.
no cell phone towers. He was too far in the time bubble. But he was able to make his way to a newsstand and actually look at the date on it to confirm.
Oh,
I
interesting.
know. Like that never happens. So he looked at the newspaper of the day and it said 18th of May, 1967. Um, So that was like, what, 50 years? He was from 2006. Like,
Yeah.
it's a while. Freaked out, he keeps moving towards a store called Samuel the Jeweler's, and finally his phone starts to work. So he's immensely relieved, and he turns to look back, or he turns and finds that while he's in cell phone range in the 2000s, apparently, he can like look back to where he came from and still see where it looks like the past behind him.
Oh, that's creepy.
Yeah, like looking through the veil, like where he was on the cusp of it. That
Yeah, that's
reminds
when you
me.
pull out your cell phone. You're like, in the past, not in the past, in
Click!
the past, not in the past.
That was the only picture that I thought of including. Was there was a picture in the one article of how the Bold Street looked in like today versus like the 50s. It's similar, right? Like a lot of the
Yeah.
buildings are the same. Oh yeah, that reminds me of the in the Magicians, at least in the books, the Magicians, maybe not the TV series, but um when they go to the magical college, it's like what, 2 3 months in the future or something in this weird like bubble.
Yeah.
So
The
they like
time
can
is messed up.
yeah, so they can like they're rowing down this river, and they like rowed far enough that they were like out of the time bubble, and they're like, ooh, it's November here, and then they row back and
Oh,
it's like
yeah.
2 months before. It's so weird.
Yeah.
I can't
They
imagine
touch
just
on that like a
able to go
little
back and
bit.
forth.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think they touch on that a little bit in the show, but not as much as they talk about
Okay.
it in the books.
Yeah, in the book they like spend an afternoon doing it,
Yeah.
playing around. So, just finally to conclude that story, he and the security guard that had been chasing after him were both interviewed by a local paper after that. And the
Oh.
security guard, yeah, sorry, I'm just so excited. You don't usually get this. Yeah, so the security guard claimed that he was right on Sean's tail, chasing him, just up until the point where he turned the corner into the alley. And then the guard turned the corner and Sean was completely disappeared. Like that's when he lost him. He was gone. So he was able to like corroborate that Sean was being chased and then like completely disappeared into thin air.
And then did they arrest Sean? Oh,
When
by
he
the
told his
way.
story to the paper.
Well, no, because
Maybe
he's
he,
still a thief. He
I
still stole
suppose.
all that stuff.
They're like, when you chase down Anonymous, who we got to participate in this story on the agreement to not be prosecuted. Yeah. Maybe he just like stole some chapstick or something. Probably wasn't a big deal. Criminals have time slips too, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's all I have. Yeah.
Wow. Short for you. Oh my god.
Okay, well, it doesn't happen a lot, but because we kind of came up a little bit up across the same one where
Yeah.
I think I thought you were doing something a little different, so I did a little dive into the one you covered, but
Yeah, that's true.
there's a lot on it. They're all so fascinating. Like,
Yeah, it's a fun topic.
mhm. I, yeah, it's like I can hear a million of them. And I'm still like, what? Not enough. What
Yeah.
more?
Maybe people from the future going in time slips and they're seeing today. Can you imagine?
Right?
Go up to every stranger you see. Are you from the future?
Oh my god. The movie I just watched. They land on our planet when dinosaurs are here. I'm like, oh, that's a bad time. It's a bad time to come across us. You might want to check
Yeah.
us out a few thousand years later.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sounds terrible. Do not recommend. 0 stars.
I just love this shit. It's right up there with predictions and
Yeah.
conspiracy theories and other unexplained shit that you're just like, what? Time slip. Something in the universe.
Yeah, it's
Well,
weird.
what was that? Episode 99? Did we just do that in the
Yes.
bag?
Oh, next week is officially our 100th episode, but I think technically our 106th or something stupid, but no, it's 100.
Our 100,000th hour of podcasting. No, I don't know. Because we have a lot.
Yeah, I wonder how many hours. I
I
don't think
have
anything
no idea. I just
tells
remember when
us.
Spotify told us that we had more um minutes than 99% of the rest of the true crime
Yeah.
category.
It's like, we get it, we ramble.
Hey, what are you saying, Spotify? It's like when they're like, "Are
We're
you
in the
still
99th
watching this?"
percentile? Thank you.
You know, when like Netflix is like, "Are you still watching this?" Or like, "Are you okay?" You're like, "Yes, I am. I'm fine."
I'm just, well, I guess that doesn't come up on my laptop. It just keeps playing because I've fallen asleep watching stuff before that's only like 20 minutes
On
long. And they'll be
on
like,
Netflix? On your laptop?
yeah, it won't ask you, are you still
Okay.
watching? It'll just keep
Oh.
auto playing forever and ever. And I think I fell asleep on the couch one time and I was watching some show that was only 20 minutes long an episode. And I think it played through like 5 or 6 episodes and I slept through them all. And then I woke
Yes.
up and I was like, what's even happening anymore?
Oh,
So,
totally. You're like, "Why am I on this season of The Office?" Or
yeah,
like, you know
it
what's worse
just
than
kept
that
auto
is
playing.
okay, say like, we're recording or something, or I'm drinking or whatever, and then like I go and I'm like, I'm gonna have a snack and read my book, and then like the next day I go to read it and I'll be like, I don't remember the last 5 pages that I just apparently read last night. I have to go back and like reread it. I'm
Yeah.
like, I was too drunk to read. And then I'll be like, oh, I'm like 5 pages ahead. Or
I
like,
was
yeah,
seeing
you
words,
wake
but
up.
I was not understanding words.
I'm like, I don't remember this. Yeah. Or you're like, yeah, it's the same feeling as when you wake up and your Netflix is like way further along than it should be. And you're like,
Yeah.
I don't remember this. Guess I fell
Uh,
asleep.
yeah.
Oh, too funny.
It's okay right now. My in between book, as I was telling you, between the two Black Digger Brotherhood books that got released
Right.
fucking 3 weeks apart. So
Oh
savage. Why
God.
would you do this to us?
Can
I
she
think
talk to George R. R. Martin, who will probably
she's
release the next Game of Thrones when my grandkids are alive?
I think she is doing like 4 books this year, I think, come out. It's
Oh
like,
my
fuck. They're
God.
3 weeks apart. Who chose that? So
I
difficult.
know. I read like
Um,
4 books a month. Like, okay.
yeah. And she apparently writes however many books a year. It's
Yeah.
insane. She's
Yeah.
wild, man. Um, but so the in-between book on one of the free ones I found on the on Prime, it let me borrow it. I think it was like 4.99 if I wanted to buy it, and I was like, I don't need to buy it. I'll just borrow it. It's a book about
Right.
all
That's
the
so
different
weird that you can do that. It's so cool.
yeah, it's a book about all the different Wes Anderson movies, and it tells like the story from like
Oh.
conception to like filming of each one. And I didn't know that the first one that he did, Bottle Rocket, basically launched Owen Wilson's career
Oh.
because him and
Bottle Rocket. I think I've seen that.
I, I think that's one of the only Wes Anderson ones I haven't seen yet.
Okay, wait. Is that a weird. Is that a. Do you know if it's about wine and possibly stars Severus Snape?
No,
Alan Rickman?
no.
Okay. I think there's one with a similar name that I'm thinking of.
Okay.
That I think I often get it confused. Never mind. Never mind.
Um, but yeah, so him, Owen Wilson, like Wes Anderson, Owen Wilson, and then Luke Wilson, Owen Wilson's younger brother.
Yeah. Yeah, he
Uh,
was in that 70s show.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Uh, and then another guy, they like the three of them, other than Wes Anderson, he directs it, but the three of them star in the movie.
Okay.
But like Luke, Owen, and Wes Anderson were all living in like a just rundown, shitty, basically apartment together when they did this
Okay.
movie. And it was the first thing he had directed, and then the first thing that Owen Wilson ever acted
Um,
in, and it basically
is it?
launched his career. Yeah.
Wow.
yeah, it was pretty wild, and they like worked through the script together and all this stuff. It's really cool. Um,
It's called Bottle Rocket. Oops.
yeah, it's I think it was done in 1996 or something. It's like pretty old now.
Huh.
Yeah, but it's really
Yeah, it's
cool.
not
I
the
was
one
like,
I'm thinking of then, but
I haven't finished the one, but it writes up a little thing about each movie, um, up until the French Dispatch is the last one that's been put released. He has one, I can't remember what it's called, that's coming out this year. I think in July or something. Let me
oh,
see.
that's the last one, like Wes Anderson one, you mean? Or
Yeah, the last one that's been released is the French Dispatch, so that's where
I've
the little thing ends at, and I was like, ooh, I love it. Like, I love
oh,
Wes
I have not
Anderson.
seen any of that. No.
Yeah.
Weird. Looks good. I love Owen
Yeah, it's like a
Wilson.
little heist. It basically said the movie came out of the thing that him and Wes Anderson were trying to were they trying to well, basically the place they were living in was really run down and the windows didn't close properly. So
Oh.
they kept complaining to the landlord about it, that it wasn't
Okay.
closing properly, and the landlord wouldn't do anything about it. So they staged a break-in. So they had one of them like crawl through the window, steal all their stuff. They put it in a
Oh
different
no.
location, and they were basically like, "See, the windows." Like filed a police report, and we're like, "We've complained to our landlord so many times that the windows are broken. He won't fix them. And
Yeah.
look, now all our stuff's stolen." And the landlord basically was like, "It's an inside job. They did it themselves." And like the cop
Oh
figured
my
out,
god.
yeah, they did.
Landlords suck.
Um,
What a dick.
but yeah, the movie
They were trying to
basically
make a point.
came out of that premise of like we're gonna stage break and like fake robbery kind of thing. And then it's
Oh,
talking about
okay.
how they when they were filming it, because Bill Murray is in almost all of Wes Anderson movies. Well, they tried to get Bill Murray in the first
Uh,
one, and he wouldn't even read the script and stuff. And now
oh.
he's in like every single one of the movies. Um,
He seems to appreciate a good comedic. If
yeah,
you know, even if he has to appear as himself, pretending to be like a zombie, like in
yeah, I love
whatever
that.
that movie was,
Zombieland,
Adventureland, Zombieland. Okay, yeah, yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's pretty
He's a
cool.
good sport.
All the little stories about it. I'm like, I love this. Like,
Weird. I that's so like I'm like, why is it called Bottle Rocket? Is this why I get it confused with this other film?
it's
Because
apparently
it sounds like it should be about something else.
Bottle Rocket apparently is like a offhand name for like cheap fireworks that like don't go off properly. It's basically knockoff
Oh.
fireworks they call bottle rockets.
I mean, I've heard of, I was gonna say
As
lightning in a
per
bottle
as
or
per whatever it
whatever.
said in the little book thing I'm reading. But
Oh.
yeah,
Okay, yeah,
it's
not the one
cute.
I was thinking of, which
No.
I don't have more information on, so it's fine. But that's something to do with wine, and that's why I had bottle in the name, I
No.
think.
I'm like, no, this is the little heist. It's like a heist
Ooh.
movie. I'm like, that's cool.
Oh yeah, those are my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well,
Well,
join us next week for our 100th spectacular. It's going to be a little different, a little fun.
yeah,
So,
special episode.
yeah, we might not have strictly a couple cases. You know, it'll be a little bit more
No.
loosey goosey, which will be fun, I think.
We can
Something
just
different,
tangents, all the tangents, as much tangents as we want, because it'll have
maybe.
not a whole lot of theme or anything to it other than it's 100. Let's celebrate.
I mean, some people put all that kind of extra content on their Patreon. If you just like the shenanigans and us
Yeah.
talking bullshit, like that can be arranged.
Yeah, if you
But
want like
yeah, we might have some fun
52
stuff.
movie recommendations and TV shows and book recommendations, and we've covered like everything in this episode.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
we could keep
yeah.
going forever because
We
we
might have
both,
yeah.
I was just gonna say, we both like what read and watch so many things all the time, constantly, that it's like
There-
never not talk about what we've done this week. What have you read? What have you watched? I liked this movie.
no.
Did you see this? Blah blah blah.
I think
Forever.
now you're reminding me of one that I haven't so much listened to, but I've seen on Good Pods and guesting on other shows that I listen to, where it's called like Dustin can read and watch, and I'm like, oh okay, but he like I think reviews things,
Oh,
and so that's probably why it's called that. I like I say I've kind of heard about it, but that's funny. You're like we read and watch stuff. I'm like, yeah, we do. Kelsey and Alanna, we read and watch,
yeah.
and we talk a
You can
lot.
follow me on Letterboxd. You'll probably never figure out my username, but according to Letterboxd, I am in, I
Sure.
don't know what percentile of watchers, because if you click it,
Yeah.
like the top viewers, besides the people that are flat out lying that they've ever seen 25,000 movies, um, because
In
they've
their
seen movies
lifetime?
that barely even have,
What?
well, they've had movies logged that barely even have a trailer or just have been announced, and it's like, you haven't fucking seen that. Get out of here. Uh,
I'm sure. Exactly. They're
other
like,
than
we watch
those
400
people,
movies a year. You're like, okay.
other than those people, I'm like one of the highest people because I'm
Uh,
over 2,500 movies logged. So
that's
yeah,
crazy. It's weird for me logging the books I read on Goodreads this year. I'm like, I don't usually do this. And then I'm like, oh, I read
yeah,
this, and now I read this. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I
be
read these.
cool. They
Yeah.
need to make a proper website that logs TV shows. I tried one once and it was really
Hmm.
annoying. I did not like it because
Yeah.
you had to log each show, and then when you logged a show it would notify you each episode unless you logged every episode you
Hmm.
had ever seen. So like imagine logging, like if I was to
Okay.
log Bob's Burgers, imagine 22 episodes in 13 seasons. So it's like, yeah, that's like way too many
Well, that's
episodes.
yeah, then it
I'm not
feels like
logging
work.
300 shows
I
episodes for
want
one show.
yeah, I just want to watch something. I don't want to like make a report about it or even
Yeah, but it was like I just wanted to
rank
like
each one.
have a website where I could like list the TV shows I've seen and then kind of more keep track of the
Yeah.
ones I want to see. Uh,
Yeah, that should be the idea. That's what I
which there
like
isn't
about
really a good one
good
like that.
pods.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got good pods, good reads for the books and the podcasts, but then there's
Yeah.
none where for like what TV shows have I watched or what movies and what do I want to watch and whatnot.
Yeah.
I don't
Letterboxd is
know.
good for movies and like TV movies or even one-off shows like Sherlock where you can like or like even Black Mirror where you can classify each episode as kind of like a movie or its own standalone thing. You can log those, but you can't log
Oh.
like seasonal TV shows. Um
Yeah, okay. I can see that being
yeah.
annoying. I like being able to rate and comment on specific episodes of podcasts in Good Pods
Yeah.
because sometimes you're like, oh, I have something to say just about this episode or just about what they
Yeah.
talked about. And you're like, yeah, that's what I like about that one. But I don't know.
Yeah.
We want to
Somebody
top
out
the
there,
charts on all of them. So keep rating us.
right?
Rate,
When I
review, and tell a friend.
Yeah, when I clicked in Good Pods, I think when I was looking at something, it said, "Oh, I had to click into it to get that little decal to put on our website. I had to like click
Right.
in and I had to search for our podcast and then go to the
Because
podcast page. And then
a
it came
good
up with a
pod's deckle.
list.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it came up with a list being like, we're 10th on this list. We're 17th on this list. We're like, and it listed like 9 lists
Oh.
that we were in the top like 50 to 70 of. And I was like, oh,
9
damn.
lists.
Yeah, I was just like,
Okay.
holy shit.
That's nice. I know
I was like,
I get a
cool.
little endorphin boost when they're like, "You're number whatever" in the true crime indie podcast. I'm like,
This, it wasn't
"Ooh."
even like indie. It was like true crime, you're this number. Like, it was, yeah,
Oh.
I was like, wow.
Wow.
Wow. In
I
Owen
finally
Wilson
got
voice. Wow.
usually I have to go in and look at each list. Like it finally, I've
Ah,
claimed my podcast so long ago, but whatever. It just never, other people would be like, oh, I get an email that says you're top this. And I'm like, I never get an email. Finally, I got an
oh,
email that was like, you're this
oh,
top of this list. I'm like, what?
nice.
What happened? What did I do? No, but it's fun. Yeah, it's definitely nice. I've heard actors talk about how when you're doing a show, you don't know how, like, I was listening to Office Ladies and they're like, you don't get the response when you're not in front of a
Yeah.
live audience. And I'm like, podcasting, like, you see the numbers,
Are
but you're
you
like,
out
do
there?
people
Hello?
enjoy it? Like, we don't know.
Yeah, because sometimes on YouTube it'll say like, um, somebody listened for like 17 seconds. And you're like, well,
Oh,
why?
yeah, why? Okay, what would make you turn off after 17 seconds? That's like barely like our intro music. They're like, nope,
Yeah.
hated the dog howling or whatever, the wolf.
Don't like the door. No thanks.
Not into it.
Yeah.
Alanna's intros were boring. They said their names and then they were awkward. No, I don't know. That's how I
Uh,
imagine it. Uh,
yeah.
anyway, this was fun.
Yes. We'll catch up with you guys next week for our
Yes,
2-year anniversary,
I know.
basically. And
Somehow we're still
yeah.
doing it.
And 100 episodes. Woo! 3 digits. Can you believe it? I can't. That's wild.
I know we would not be here if it weren't
We've
for
done
each
this over 100
other.
times. Ah.
It's true. No, and I'll hear other people be like, "Pfft, if we didn't have each other to keep, going, then one of us would have quit long ago. And I'm like, same. If I hadn't had Kelsey to be like, well, we should start talking about it this day and then we should do it. Like, I probably would have
Yeah.
never got this off the ground. I have everything to, thank for
Yeah.
you. So.
Oh, same.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for sticking with us and keep it cryptic.
Bye. This has been Castles and Cryptids. You can listen to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Anchor, Breaker, Pocket Cast, and our YouTube channel. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Reddit. On our website, you can listen to all of our episodes as well as view pictures for each of our segments. Check out our Patreon page to view all of our tiers and become a Patreon supporter today to unlock monthly bonus episodes and behind-the-scenes content. We are working on an Ask Us Anything. You can submit questions by social media or by email at castlesandcryptids@gmail.com. Do you have a spooky ghost story, a creepy cryptid sighting, or a thrilling true crime tale you would like to share and have us include in a future episode? Send us your listener story by social media or by email. Please include the name that you would like mentioned. Our music is by Kobe Fair. Our logo and artwork is by Antonio Garcia. Thanks for listening.